Hey everyone, here's a question for you. Preppers often say that working together in a community makes you have better survival odds. Concerning technology and the effed up mentality of people generally, isn't it better to just self-isolate when SHTF? That's the question from Aaron from my Telegram channel that you can join, and you have a link below this video. So that's question number 4, and I will be answering 500 questions. A very good question. It really depends on you and what your skills are and how prepared you are and what your mental health is like. So generally speaking, and this is probably for 9 out of 10 people, the answer is that usually community is the way to go. However, we need to differentiate between numbers. And I think that, let's just say the first group is the self, the one person. So that would be A. B would be the immediate family. So let's say husband, wife, and the children. C would be 2-3 families, and usually that's up to 8 or 12 people. And then when preppers say community, they usually say a bigger community, and that's usually not what I would recommend unless you are already a cohesive group and you work together well and you have established a really good working relationship and you have strong leadership and principles. However, let's just face that is way harder to achieve, and you're going to be facing internal political problems in a bigger group. And so it really depends on your situation. I generally say group A, as in the individual, is going to have a hard time. However, B and C is usually the way to go for me, right? And it depends on your geography, it depends on your skills, and who complements your skills, and who can stay guard, who can. There are like smaller communities, and in the sense of 8 to 12 people are really strong, because the bond is way stronger and you're not going to have political problems within a group. So usually that's more recommended, but that group needs to be somewhat connected for trade with a larger group, but not necessarily showing all of their cards. And usually I think that's the best for survival, and they need to be somewhat physically close to a bigger group. And if you look at history, usually that is what has happened, especially in Eastern European countries, where if you go to these small old towns, you take a look at it, how the houses were built. Usually it was 2-3 families, very close families, like grandfather and maybe the children, and their families living together, up to 12, up to maybe even more back then, right? And then they somewhat closer to other relatives, to where the group can be formed up to maybe 60 people, right? But they were in a trading relationship, not sharing resources with the outer group. That's still part of the group. Individuals can do well, however, they really have to be skilled. They really have to be prepared, and they have to have a big variety of skills. And usually it doesn't work out historically well, because we didn't have automatic chicken feeders, and the technology wasn't there. Now I would say if you are prepared, if you are rich, and you have skills, but that means, like, can you fix gloves for your hands? Can you defend yourself? Can you plant corn? Can you work on the field? It makes some sense, but who's gonna watch your back when you're eating potatoes or you're planting potatoes? So it really depends on the time frame as well, because you can probably do well for a month, 2 months, 3 months. But if the SHTF hits and you really need to think long term, as in 9 months, 2 years, then you're gonna have as an individual problem. So even if you are an individual, you want to be somewhat connected to an outer group, but you gotta watch out what that outer group is, because if you're in downtown LA, then leave as soon as possible in that case, because no matter what outer group is, the morality is probably not gonna be there. So, but if you're on the edge of a small town in Iowa, maybe you as an individual can somewhat thrive. However, I want to raise a concern that has happened in Argentina. So I talked with, I interviewed him a couple of times, and we talked about survival skills and long-term survival skills and urban survival skills with Ferfal, and his name is Fernando. And he mentioned that this happened in Argentina, where towards the middle of the crisis, where the cities were already looted and the food was gone, individuals from the cities skirmished on these big pieces of land, farms, and they were looking especially for isolated individuals and isolated families to loot. And of course, not just loot, but horrendous things have happened. So you gotta watch out for that, because eventually these people are looking for resources, and no one man is a one-man army, no matter how good you think you are, unless you have actually a bait house, which I'm not gonna talk about now, but basically it would be, okay, so you need to, it's if you're sleeping on a tree, for 300 yards from your house, and the house is empty. So anyway, what I'm saying is that there's the level of preparedness as an individual is very hard to achieve by yourself. It is possible, and if you're John Rambo, then you'll probably actually do better than smaller communities. You still need an access to a larger community. Maybe you just know the Amish very well around your neighborhood. You don't have to be friends with everyone, but they know you by name. They have traded with you individually previously, and you can purchase stuff from them, or you can work for them, and they know you as this trusted individual. And sometimes that kind of relationship works out for some people if you are mentally stable and you're not using alcohol, or you're not medicating yourself or something like that. So a man with high constitution especially can do it, possible, but it's probably the odds of a person being that is less than 1 out of 10. I would say probably 1 out of 50. It is possible if you're well prepared, if you're already pretty rich in resources and you have everything, and nobody knows what you have. So that is very important, because if you ran your mouth already to your neighbors and they should prepare and they don't, but you did, that is no longer a good situation for you. That is no longer a good situation for you, and I'll be probably talking about what you can do in that case. But you have to walk back on a bunch of stuff and pretend sell off stuff, and it's anyway. So okay, back to the answer. So you can see, just for security is very hard to reach as an individual. Now, if we're talking about a family, it's already better, because you could share responsibilities. You no longer have to feed the chicken because your kids can do that. You no longer have to do this because your wife can do that. And you can fulfill roles that are more fit for you, right? But even then, you're going to be lacking some skills. So somewhat a better solution is that if you are living together with your in-laws, if you have a good relationship, or at least 2 other families. They may not be blood relatives, but you're probably gonna need somewhat a bigger community. That's exactly what we did in Romania. We had 3 families actually. We were all blood related, so it was all just coming from my grandmother and the 3 siblings, so my mom, my uncle, and my aunt, and their families, right? Plus my grandmother. And we had a really good time because we lived or we moved basically from the city out to the countryside, where we had a bigger community there, which were probably, well, not probably, but for instance, the cousin of my grandmother and their group of people that we traded with, right? And we went there and we helped, and they came over and they helped. So, and also pretty much everyone knew in that bigger community. That's very hard to achieve in the United States because people have been moving around for job opportunities for a very long time, and they do still. So if you look at what is the average stay of a family is like 4 to 7 years, and every time they move again. So that's very hard to achieve. And not to say, even if your neighbors are on the completely opposite side on the political spectrum, then you're actually going to probably have a harder time to deal with them than if you would be dealing alone. And I would say we're probably pretty late in the game to change people's opinion. So most likely you're not going to change them. And it's very hard, but then you need to figure out how you can build your own community with radio communication and all of that good stuff, with people who are physically more distant, but then you can stay in communication and they can come over and help you, or you can go over and help them. But in that case, you better hide your power level. And what I'm saying is that, so we started, if your neighbors or the community that you are in are not preppers and on the opposite side of the political spectrum, and they don't condone violence and all that stuff, then, and they already know that you're this crazy prepper guy, then you're gonna have a bad time, is what I'm saying. So, and you're gonna have to deal with that when the time comes. So in that case, if you have other people that you can trust, then you can move there, or you can ask them to move in with you. But usually you want 24/7 someone surveilling, or someone never sleeping on the property, and enough dogs and so on and so forth. So it's just what I usually tell people, the biggest thing that you can do for your survival is pick the right location. And usually by location I mean not just geography, but terrain, availability for resources, temperature, and the community around you. So you always want to be around people where you're not the only target, and you're not a soft target, and whatever you have or whatever they think you have is not worthwhile getting. So for that, I would say hide your power level. Never show them what you are capable of, and never reveal yourself completely. So if you're capable of severe violence, nobody should know that about you, right? If you have a lot of resources, nobody should know to the level that you actually have about you. And just you should need to think way ahead of time. And depending on the strategy you pick for bugging in or bugging out, there's other things that you need to consider. So those are my thoughts, and of course we could talk about this probably for a very long time, but I hope you got some answers from this. And this is probably a really good question where I would like to interview someone and we can just shoot ideas back and forth. But the takeaway is that it is possible to be a loner, but it's going to be very hard. The chances of survival are probably lower than group B and C. However, it's not as bad as being surrounded with bad people, right? And if you have mobility, or you are capable to move, or you have maybe a bug out location or something like that. So group A is very hard, possible, but long term you're going to have some type of issues if this spreads out for more than 9 months or 2 years, is what I'm saying. Group B and group C is probably the most stable, just for like energy wise, right, to heating the house, right, and all that good stuff. So group B and group C, where it's the nuclear family or and extension family, or 3-4 families living together or working together, usually that works out pretty well. Group C is in a big community. I think that is somewhat of a fairy tale, and it works now because you all have where you can go home and you can live their lives and then go back into the group and pretend, and you only meet each other when everything is well. It is possible, but at that point we really are at that point you really need to work out the politics, and in the sense of who's doing what, who is responsible for what. Usually that doesn't work only in TV shows and that sort of stuff. What does work, if you are group B and group C, and you use the Colaco method, where you have an arrangement with a larger group that you go and help each other out on the weekends, or this day they come to you and help you out, and that day your 2 families go to the other group and help them out, but living together on some kind of land that was specifically set up for that is usually doesn't work out. So you gotta watch out. Of course, I could be proven otherwise, and maybe some of you have worked with larger groups or working actively with larger groups. Usually distance is your friend, and you gotta watch out for that. But so those are my opinions, and I would like to know what are yours. And this is a great topic, so if I can find someone that I can chat about back and forth, someone like a YouTuber that and he's on a different opinion, or even on the same opinion, then that would be great for content and probably educational. All right, so that was my answer. Please join the Telegram group and do donate. I really appreciate all of you who have donated, either Bitcoin Cash or just like regular cash, or buying me coffees. I do have the links below, and thank you very much.